Section 12, Hours of Service. This is the part of the contract where your minimum rest requirements and maximum duty limits are spelled out. This section is crucial to your ability to maintain safe alertness levels while flying. Let's go through the improvements obtained in this agreement. Then we're going to go through what happens if you call in fatigued. And finally, we'll take a look at a fatigue risk management system. FRMS is the future of prescriptive work rules. To begin with, the maximum number of landings you can be scheduled for in a duty period that touches the critical, 0100 to 0459, was reduced from 5 to 4. The time the company is allowed to extend you involuntarily was reduced from 48 hours to 36 hours domestically and from 96 hours to 84 hours internationally. So again, you can only be extended for 36 hours domestically and 84 hours internationally without your consent. Whitlow type look-back rest protections have been extended to base and field hotel standbys for non-augmented international duty periods. Now, previously this protection was only for domestic duty periods. So we've extended it to international, and to review, that means at the end of your standby period, you can only go 4 hours and 30 minutes past the scheduled end of the standby. The night duty optional assignment limits were reduced to 13 hours scheduled and 1430 operational. Now previously, remember these are optional, this is a trip trade, this is a carry-in award. Previously they were at 1330 and 15 hours for the operational. So it didn't make sense with a 13-hour operational limit on night duties to have the ability to go 30 minutes beyond that. So we made the limits so that they matched the night and operational duty limits in the CBA. A pilot may now be scheduled to exceed 8 block hours in a 24-hour period on duties that don't touch the critical. Remember, 0100 to 0459. Now that's all the duties in the pairing. There'll be no flip-flopping. The limit for a single duty period remains 7 hours and 35 minutes a block. So you still can't do more than 7 hours and 35 minutes a block in a single duty period. The FAR supplemental double out rest has been replaced with a minimum scheduled rest of 10 hours and 15 minutes, operationally reducible to 9 hours and 15 minutes. Also, you can now hub turn out of a day trip which exceeds 8 and 24, provided you receive at least 13 hours of rest after that segment, reducible operationally to 12. This provision facilitates better schedules by allowing West Coast and Caribbean cities that currently have a 24-hour layover to be built into 12-hour layovers for day duties and 36-hour layovers for critical duties. Let's take a look at some examples of pairings and lines. Our first example is line 1002, and what we will see here is the positive effect the 8 and 24 daytime rule has. Now the part of this pairing you'd be most interested in is the sequence where you go from pairing 597 Sacramento to pairing 68 Denver to pairing 597 Sacramento back to pairing 68 Denver. So when we look at those pairings, you get a 13-hour and 19-minute layover in Denver. On the way to Denver, you block 226. On the way back, you block 217. Then you're going to go to Sacramento, where you will block 357 on the way there. You'll get an 11-hour and 46-minute layover, and then you will block 342 on the way back. So if you looked at it coming in from Denver, you did 217. Going out to Sacramento, you did 357. So that's a total of 6 hours and 14 minutes a block. Under the supplemental rules, you would have had to have 12 hours and 28 minutes of rest. Under the new rules, you get 11 hours and 46 minutes of rest, which is reducible. The minimum is 10:15. It's reducible to 9:15, but this is all day flying. So the net effect is when you've done a week of this work, you've got 2 days where you're going to get an hour and 39 minutes more pay. So the net effect is during the month, you're going to work one less day. Let's look at a nighttime example, line 1005. The heart of this is you're going to start with pairing 594, which is a deadhead to Sacramento, and you're going to block 341 into Memphis, and then you're going to go to pairing 67 at night to Denver, and that's going to block 2 hours and 18 minutes. Then you're going to have a layover in Denver of 14 hours and 58 minutes. You're going to go from Denver to Memphis at 2 hours and 19 minutes, and then you're going to go back to Sacramento on pairing 596, which blocks 3 hours and 58 minutes. Then you're going to have 36 hours and 39 minutes off. So you see where you get a 36-hour layover, you're going to do a night hub turn, and then you're going to get a 36-hour layover. And I think it's a substantial improvement on the night side and the day side. So let's go on to our next example. Okay, the next example we're going to look at is line 1013. The heart of it is pairing 502 to Philly, and you're alternating with pairing 579 to San Juan. So when you start with 502 to Philly, you go Memphis to Philly for 2 hours and 24 minutes. You get a 13-hour and 24-minute layover. You go Philly to Memphis for 2 hours and 24 minutes. Then you turn to San Juan, which is 4 hours exactly. You get a 12-hour and 47-minute layover in San Juan. Then you do 4 hours and 9 minutes back to Memphis, and then you go back to Philly with 2 hours and 24 minutes. So your longest segment is 6 hours and 33 minutes a block, and this actually still complies with the double out supplemental requirement. So that's a good example of day, and at the end of this, you will, because the San Juan blocks 8 hours and 9 minutes, you will work again at least one less day a month. Next, we're going to look at a night line of the Caribbean, and that's going to be line 1019, and that alternates Kansas City and San Juan. So the heart of it is initially you're going to do pairing 310 to Kansas City, which gives you an hour and 17 minutes a block. You're going to get a 16-hour and 20-minute layover. You're going to do an hour and 22 minutes a block going back to Memphis. Then you're going to turn to San Juan on pairing 578. Now that gives you 359 of block. So your total block there is 5 hours and 21 minutes. You're going to get a 34-hour and 42-minute layover in San Juan. Then you're going to go from San Juan to Memphis at 4 hours and 6 minutes, and Memphis to Kansas City at 1 hour and 17 minutes. So you'll have 5 hours and 23 minutes. And again, your layover in Kansas City is 16 hours and 20 minutes. So we kept the supplemental double out rest provision on the night side, and on the day side with the relief, we're able to get substantially better pairings. So instead of 24-hour layovers, now we keep you on the right side of the clock on the day and at night you get a double layover after the long legs. The anchor zone may not be reset in a pairing without SIG approval. Currently, they can reset it on an 18-hour layover. This prevents excessive sleep cycle swapping. The European Theater box has been expanded, that's the lat long box, to include Tel Aviv, so we can have consistency in pairing construction and reserve rules, that they will all be to domestic rules. The requirements for international alert calls were fully defined. The company has committed to pursue FAA approval of an enhanced rest facility on the Boeing 767 aircraft. This facility is envisioned to have lie-flat bunks. Until such approval is granted, the company must schedule an enhanced sleep opportunity of 36 hours prior to any augmented segment in the field and 36 hours after an augmented segment unless it ends in your base. So since you couldn't get the rest on the aircraft, they have to give you pre- and post-augmented leg rest periods. Reducing fatigue risk is one of our collective priorities. We made a large stride in that area. The 36 hours off and 160 hours, 8 hours, time away from base requirement has been replaced with 32 hours off required in 120 hours time away from base. This provision will eliminate at least one potential body clock swap and provides additional sleep recovery periods on single departure lines. For example, on an 11-day trip, you would have two 32-hour rest periods versus the one 36-hour rest you get today. The fatigue language has been substantially improved. If you call in fatigued, you'll be treated contractually as sick in the field. The company is required to get you transportation, a hotel, and get you back from that layover city if necessary. Then an ALPA member of the Fatigue Risk Management Committee will contact you for follow-up. So first you're going to talk to one of your own. You must complete the ASAP fatigue report within 72 hours of the call. The Fatigue Event Review Committee will review your fatigue call. The FERC consists of 2 association members and 2 company members. After the review of your case, they can recommend that your sick bank be restored for the hours initially removed by the fatigue call. Remember, today, all of the hours come out of your sick bank. In the case consensus is not reached on the FERC, the system chief pilot will decide if your fatigue call hours will be restored to your sick bank. The system matches industry best practices. We developed a robust fatigue risk management system, FRMS. The data collection necessary for this system is strictly voluntary. Again, the data collection and pilot participation is strictly voluntary. The FRMS is a science-based approach to our duty limits. We envision 3 types of pairings that may be studied. Category 1 are prospective ultra-long range pairings. Category 2 are prospective pairings that do not comply with either the FARs or the CBA or both. Category 3 are prospective pairings which comply with both the FARs and the CBA. The entire FRMS program will be a cooperative effort, and as such, any study requires the association's consent. A framework for conducting ultra-long-range ULR flights, those scheduled to block over 16 hours, was placed in the back of Section 12. Any pairing containing an ULR segment will pay an override of $24 an hour for captain and $17 an hour for first officers. This override pays on the entire credit hours of the pairing. ULR segments will be scheduled with 2 captains and 2 FOs. Operationally, they can depart with 1 captain and 3 FOs. The maximum scheduled duty is 20 hours, 18 hours maximum block, and it shall have only 1 landing schedule. There is prescribed pre- and post-flight rest for the ULR segment. The bottom line is ULR will be jointly designed and agreed to before FAA data collection permission is sought. Final approval of the ULR pairing requires unanimous consent of the 2 scientists, the companies and ALPAs. Our fatigue scientist is Dr. Steve Hirsch, who is regarded as one of the best in the industry. Hopefully you see the new focus on fatigue prevention contained in Section 12, Hours of Service. We've improved the prescriptive rules and designed a robust FRMS as a science basis for the future.